Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kickabout Show, a wonderful show that is affiliated with the Grassroot Chats, and we talk about anything we want to talk about, pretty much anything that's trending, anything we want to debate on. With me again in the studio is Dunk and Neil. Mike and Steve are somewhere, only God knows. And today we are talking about how successful, or has it been, or will it be, a failing season for Man City if they win just the league. And of course, we also touch on the resources and it being a failing season for Chelsea, considering the resources they have. But before we go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and of course, you can get all our content from grassrootchats.com. So let's just start. Considering the amount of money Pep has spent, the philosophy of his football, how people think he's the greatest manager, the GOAT, as they say, would you say, considering the fact also that Liverpool is going for the quadruple, has Man City had a far from successful season winning just the Premier League, if they win the Premier League? Neil.
I think it's a successful season. I think would they like more success? Yeah. But I think winning the Premier League by any top manager would be happy with that on their resume. And I would probably say that winning the Premier League is more important than winning the Champions League. I want to say more prestigious from the point of view of being English and a fan of the Prem. Winning the Champions League is obviously vitally important for financial reasons, but winning the Prem has got to be equally financial, if not more financial for the teams. So no, successful season for me. Could be better, yeah, but I'm still sticking down to a B+ if he wins it.
It's understandable that, as you have mentioned, the Premier League comparison with money and Champions League, winning it depending on, being a fan of wherever you're from. Premier League is arguably the most difficult league in the world to win. But with Man City and with all that they have, and winning the Premier League doesn't come as a surprise to Man City. Yes, they're being chased very, closely by Liverpool. You could even say two of them are arguably the best teams in the world. But there's an expectancy with the way Man City has grown over the past few years that they should win the league. Now, the other expectancy is that you should be dominant as the English team, top English team. You should be dominant around the world. Now, they came close to the Champions League and they pretty much lost it in 5 minutes. Pep Guardiola is a Champions League winner, but he hasn't won it with Man City. He has been the manager of Man City for 6 years, and he's always coming close, but he has never won it. So winning just the league and not the Champions League, once again, with the amount of the quality of the players he has in there, his philosophy, Dunk, would you say it is a far from successful season?
No, I totally agree with what Neil just said there. If we get into the stage where you're calling like winning the Premier League unsuccessful, that's Jesus, you must have some serious expectations to be getting to that point. So again, if they win the Premier League, that is a successful season. And just like Neil said, they would have wanted more. Yep, they would have wanted the Champions League. Premier League's like a tough league to win. They've obviously won it a few times over the course of the last 5-10 years. Yeah, like Neil said, there's a little case of cementing a legacy there and trying to catch up with the other clubs like Man U, Liverpool in terms of league titles. So that's still pretty big for Man City to be taking league titles. Obviously, the Champions League was a real kick in the balls for them. The way they went out right at the end of that game, conceding 2 goals was that was a bad way to go out. So that's going to hurt them. Again, like Champions League, it's not easy to win. I'd say the worst thing for City would be the fact that other English teams have won it in the last 10 years, like Liverpool and Chelsea and Man U. That'll be the real kicker for them, and they'll want to win it, and they'll just have to go again next season.
Well, this is why I say you might look at it as unsuccessful, or you might not agree with that word. So if Bayern Munich win the league, no surprise, is expected, right? If Celtic win the league, it's normal. If PSG win the French league, I mean, Lille won it last season and it was big because it's not something that's happened. It was unexpected. So now Man City, once again, with the resources, the money they've spent, and they literally can get any player in. Pep is hailed as the GOAT. You had Mourinho at a certain point that was the number one manager in the world.
Who's hailing Pep as the GOAT?
The media?
No.
Oh yes, they
So
are. Oh yes.
so Pep is let's be sensible about conversations with Pep. Is he a good manager? Absolutely. That goes without that. Does he play the most attractive style of football known to man? Well, probably does, right? Doesn't matter. He can mix it up a little bit if he wants to.
Arguable.
But arguably, he plays the best. But he's no Ancelotti. Guy's won it everywhere. Guy has won it everywhere.
I can
won the
agree with
Champions
that.
League.
But so are you saying Ancelotti is the GOAT?
No, I'm not even saying he is, but I'm saying he's great. Great. We want to go to the GOAT. There's only one. There's only one for the GOAT, right? The guy that's made a legacy at one club. Yeah? And that was at Aberdeen. And that was Sir Alex Ferguson, right? All right, maybe at Man United. But I think if you look at epitomizing of a legacy, there's no bigger legacy than Alex Ferguson. If you're looking at top quality managers, then yes, Pep is going to be a great man management guy. He plays a really, really attractive football that people aspire to play. So people will now be taking that Arteta taking the blueprint from him. But he isn't. Well, as far as I'm concerned, he's not the GOAT. Like he's got a long way to go from that. I think personally.
So let me ask you. Let me ask. So you don't think Pep is the GOAT? You don't think? And you have mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson as the man. A lot of people criticize Ferguson for winning the Champions League just 2 times in his entire career because they believe, once again, Man United at the time, arguably the best team in the world, best football, the way he managed the players, the resources, and they believe winning the Champions League just 2 times wasn't good enough. So that's one, thing that a lot of people used to criticize. The
Who's
media,
they? I want to know who they are. Don't you with me on this one. Who are they?
I'm totally with you on that
if
one.
I look
If
at-
people say that about Ferguson, like, no.
Well, so you want me to go? So Jack at number 32, Jack at number 32, Swindon Street is the one that
You're
said
just
so.
making shit up to get
I'm gonna
content,
knock on
aren't you,
his door.
JJ? Just making
Yeah, that's why I brought 2 of you.
Show's
in, man.
over, right? Yeah.
Big social media influencers, you two.
I think there's we'll come back to Pep in a second, but for Sir Alex Ferguson in a league of his own of what he did, what he accomplished, and for the time, and I'm not a Man U fan by a long shot, but what he accomplished and what he did and
We can
the
tell
legacy
from
he
what
left
you're
behind
wearing.
is amazing, right? If you then look at Real Madrid, they don't have a legacy of a manager like that. Unfortunately, it's not like a bad thing because they're very, very successful. What they do well is compete in a 2-horse race every year, really, really well. Sometimes it's 3 when Atletico are at the races. But that's pretty much what they do. But they're very, 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 I don't know if we'll get the word very, good at cup football. And I'm really good at cup football and winning cup matches. And that kind of hasn't transcended maybe into the UK club, does it very, very well. Cup football, you can see that he's already won 2 this season, maybe 3. Pep, not so good at cup football. If we then look back, he isn't kind of that, but he is consistent across a league, which is arguably harder to do rather than a 90-minute game, right?
You see, the problem with that is, so when he was a manager of Barcelona, I think there's only once he didn't win a cup. As when he became Bayern Munich manager, they won the double. He's 3 years there. So
he didn't win the Champions League though, did it either?
Yeah, but you said cup though. You didn't say Champions League.
No, I'm saying he didn't win the Champions League. Yeah, but I mean, he's won a cup in Germany.
One of the reasons,
disrespect.
and one of the reasons he left Bayern Munich is because that not being able to get them, especially I can't remember the name of the manager that was in there before him. That guy gave them the treble. And they won everything in style. So Pep not being able to go over that and give that. Pep was coming in with the pedigree as, this is the guy. He couldn't give them the Champions League. It's one of the reasons he left Bayern Munich. So me asking about him not being able to give them the Champions League with Man City, you should understand where I'm coming from here.
I completely understand where you're coming from, but I was disagreeing with the notion that A, he's the GOAT, because I don't think he is, and B, that just winning the Premier League isn't good enough. Like, okay, we know that Man City have got all the resources known to man, but they're not the richest club in the world anymore, are they? Newcastle.
Really,
But then, but
really, Newcastle
no, they
in this
are.
conversation. I'm not saying they're not the richest. We're talking about what you have done. Newcastle became rich midway through the season. Let's not start talking
Yeah.
about them when it comes to
You said
resources.
that Pep, but
No,
we were declaring the fact that Pep had unlimited resources, right? So
that
their
he has
resources are
had for
no
the last
longer.
few years, and because
I
Newcastle is
believe
richer,
that Man
and because
City are an upheld club that work within FFP.
Dunk, there's something wrong with this guy. Please,
I think just
let's go back to what we're
I'll help
talking
you out,
about.
JJ, just on terminology. Instead of the GOAT, like he is obviously one of the best managers in the world, and I think at this stage, if he was offered around, most clubs in the world would take
I'm not
him.
calling him the good. I'm not
Oh
calling
no,
him the
I'm just
good.
saying,
I'm telling you what other people,
but like.
and Richard from number 12 said.
Silly Richard. Anyway, we'll just get away from that terminology of the GOAT, and we'll just say like he's obviously a world-class manager. At this current time, he's one of the best managers in the world. And if he was offered around, there are plenty of clubs that would bite your hand off to take him as their manager. Like I'm sure PSG would take him in an instant. Real Madrid, without the Barcelona links, they would have him as well. So like he is one of the best managers in the world.
So if Pep has spent, 6 years in Manchester now, Man City manager. Let's say he stays there for another 4 or 5 years, wins a few more league titles, domestic cups. If he doesn't win the league, wouldn't you count that against him? Sorry, if he doesn't win the Champions League, sorry. Wouldn't you count that against him? Dunk, I'll start with you. Would you say, oh yeah, I mean, clearly already as it stands, you don't think he's a GOAT, you think he's a world-class manager, he's probably best at this moment in time. But if you're looking at, in terms of delivery, Klopp has won the league once, yes, and he has won the Champions League, possibly going for a quadruple. If he wins the Champions League again, that's 2 in how many? There's no mention about, unsuccessful or especially if you compare the resources between both teams. So I'm just trying to understand here. There shouldn't be any other reason. There shouldn't be any particular reason why City shouldn't be able to win the Champions League at this point.
I mean, if he did stay for 10 years and he didn't win the Champions League, like you're not gonna say he's a failure. Like you look back at his 10 years.
No, clearly failure is a bit too harsh, but
it just it just taint it a little bit. Like you'd still look and see what he's done for Man City and building a legacy. So again, like it just taint it slightly, but I don't think like people would be looking back at him and with any negative thoughts. Like he'd still be a success with the amount of stuff he's won. If the league titles dropped off in the next few years, that would be a different story. Like personally, I think it's only a matter of time. Like it has been 6 years, but like I'm sure like the odds are that he's going to win the Champions League at least once. So I don't know. We'll see. Like if they can break their duck, maybe they can do a two in a row or 2 or 3, in 4 or 5 years. So we'll see how they get on.
Well, now that they have Haaland in there and they've added to their strike force, I mean, we spoke about this in our last episode of Grassroot Chats and the amount of things Haaland will add to the squad. Is there a bigger possibility that the Champions League might be delivered, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a million miles away from it. They're competitive. They're keeping the brand out in Europe by getting to the semis, right? They lost against Real Madrid. Probably no bigger team to lose against. On the European stage, it's much better to lose against them than to Liverpool at the semi-final stage, for instance, because more eyes on it, right, than just another Premier League game. They're definitely going to have more chance to win with Haaland because he's a proven goal scorer. Will he? Everyone knows who he is, though, so he's no surprise from that side of it. So they're going to have to work around how do they keep him in. I think Pep's legacy will be at City if he continues to stay there. I think you need like and I mentioned Ancelotti, that he moves around a lot, right? So you've got a lot of managers that move around and they don't get to build a legacy. They don't get to have that status because they're only at a club for a short period of time. And if he gets to 10 years, I mean, like Duncan was saying, in a few more years, if he's won a few more league titles, etc., he's starting to then become onto another level, because keeping the longevity of the job is a mental strain on anyone, right? And if he's not winning what he wants to win, and he obviously wants to win the Champions League, but not at the detriment of the league. And I think that's kind of an important thing. Could Man City have just put all their eggs in and gone, that's just the league game this week, let's not worry so much about it? But he wants to win that. So it will be interesting how else that he supports Haaland now. And Haaland himself won't make that team a much better team. Yes, it will improve it, but they need to work around Haaland as well, the style that they're going to play with Haaland. Maybe it'll be the third style that Pep tries in order to facilitate him in. That starts to cement for me a legacy, someone worth having a statue out of, then bringing him up to the status of, of Ancelotti, as far as I'm concerned, and Sir Alex of that. Because even you look at Wenger as well, and his long term that he did at Arsenal, and how he revolutionised the football at Arsenal and English football in general. That's massive to do. Pep coming over, and actually Klopp and Pep at the same time, is beautiful for England, right? Because imagine one without the other. We wouldn't be having half the interest and stuff we're having at the moment. So I think we just wouldn't, right? There's just no one else there.
We would. There's always something wonderful that's been happening in the Premier League.
Rangnick?
Do you want to just keep listing Man United managers?
I'm just trying to think who else has been
just
up
stop
there,
it,
right?
Neil. It's embarrassing.
It's been the Premier League has always had competition, regardless of who's there. Yes, Pep and Klopp have added some extra sauce to it. There's no doubt. But I think the sweet drama would have.
Are you not bringing
continued.
the flowers to Klopp?
Klopp? No, not today. The conversation is about Pep. Conversation is about Pep, not today.
No, I think
that helps managers.
Yeah, I
right?
agree with Neil. I was going to say that, like, the same point. It's nice where we're talking about legacies. You've got two managers doing, on similar journeys with Klopp and Guardiola. They're not blow-ins, mercenaries like maybe Chelsea or Man U would be appointing in the last few years. They're there and they're building legacies, and it's a great battle.
So are you saying because Ancelotti moves around, is he not building a legacy? The legacy is built from the success. So we talk about
He's
legacy.
He's built himself a legacy, but what's he left behind, right?
But he has
you
left
could
them
have 15 children across the world. If you didn't father any of those children and look after them, what legacy have you left other than your DNA everywhere? But you have to nurture and bring it through, right? That's a legacy.
That was
he's got his own legacy.
Terrible.
It
First of all, that was terrible.
It was a perfect analogy.
No, terrible analogy. So, terrible.
Duncan's nodding.
Terrible. What do you mean? The success that he actually gets for this club, whether he goes around, it's not just his. So why are you saying he's not leaving a legacy? Someone like Ancelotti or Mourinho.
Yeah, it's a different legacy. Like Neil said, he's got a personal legacy as being a great manager and winning in all the different continents, whereas Klopp and Guardiola are building the club legacy. Like they're doing it at one club rather than jumping around.
So
if Ferguson had left United and only won 2 Champions League in 25 years at 12 clubs, no one would be saying how good he was. You'd be like, Fergie's won. No one would say a manager in 25 years
at
only
number
winning
24.
12, number 12.
No, he's his brother.
Yeah, there's 2 of them on that road.
No, but no one would they? Because of Ferguson's legacy, the class of 92, the stuff that he brought through, that's his DNA, that's his legacy. That's what everybody says is the blueprint of Man United now, right? Everyone wants to play, that's the United way. Like, no one talks about Best anymore at United. He doesn't get a mention. Scholes gets a mention. Giggsy. No, when was the last time you heard Best mentioned? Apart
Yesterday.
From today, when this goes out, that'll be it. Like, no one
does.
And that's because there isn't a legacy.
I like how when I say they, you're like, who's they? And now you go, no one. What do you mean? How
no
can
one,
you
say no one, that's everyone.
Every single person out there, no one talks about Best. Lies.
They don't.
Big lies. But back to the point at hand. And I like the fact that you mentioned Klopp. So Klopp has, in 6 years, Premier League showing consistency, building the team, Champions League. Pep has more league titles, three league titles, or soon to be three league titles, and no Champions League. You also mentioned Wenger, who spent 22 years or more in Arsenal. And it's funny how everybody talks about what he did for English football. He won three titles, three Premier League titles, seven FA Cups, no Champions League. He was successful and left a legacy because of what he did for Arsenal. But there's still that question mark, man. Wenger, great philosophy, great manager, great everything, no Champions League.
Yeah, well, no one's saying he's a GOAT, but what I'm saying, he left a legacy, right? And Duncan's 100% in agreement. We're talking of legacies of people have left to make them to that next level. But Ferguson, you said only won 2 Champions Leagues in 25 years. Well, Mourinho's won more than that. Are you going to say Mourinho's better than Ferguson?
And
you saying Ancelotti's better?
No, you said Ancelotti is better because he has won it in 5. Your reasoning why Ancelotti is better or is very wonderful is because he had won the league. So you're going against you're contradicting yourself. You're going against you're contradicting yourself. Yes, you are.
Ferguson's the GOAT.
Talking
because
about
of
legacy.
Those reasons, the legacy, not
talking
because
about
of
legacy.
What he's won.
Talking about, I never said what you win. Talking about legacy and what you win and not win, 2 different conversations. Legacy, you mentioned, the longer you stay in the club, you're leaving legacy. If you move around, it's a legacy for yourself. Fine. That could be the point that you want to see. The club, the success that the manager brings, even if he stays one season, it is still, clubs make DVDs about winning a game, not to mention winning a trophy. So whether the manager is mercenary and moves around, if you win something that's successful, it is still success for the club. So you could say, oh, it's not the club's legacy or it's not a good legacy. It's the same thing. So whether he stays 10 years...
Talk to me about Roberto Di Matteo's legacy at Chelsea as a manager.
He gave them the first Champions League, man. The first. Every time they talk about the first Champions League, they will talk about Roberto Di Matteo. He gave them the first.
Who was the manager at that point? That's what they'll be like, right?
At least it'd be good for a pub quiz. It'd be good for a pub quiz. I think the man's name is still mentioned. But talking about resources,
I'm just trying
to
show you my rationale of why I don't think he's the GOAT, but why he's only a world-class manager. There's a big difference between the two.
I didn't argue about that. That's your opinion. Nope, I didn't. That's your opinion, and that's what you think. Yes, please do. That's your opinion, and that's what you think. That there's no argument to that. My question still remains: Pep being Pep, what he won with Barcelona, the Champions League twice, and what he has for Man City. It is understandable if somebody goes, this guy winning the league is just not enough at a particular point. Everybody says the same thing about PSG. You can see how PSG are trying so hard to win the Champions League because winning the league, the French league, is not just enough. And that is the truth, man. That is true story.
Yeah, but we've already said the Premier League's totally different to the French league or the Bundesliga. Like it's more of an achievement to win the Premier League. And if you compare Man City to PSG, like Man City are a damn sight closer to winning the Champions League with Klopp still there over a period of time than PSG, who are chopping and changing managers every 1 or 2 seasons.
One of the reasons that you mentioned that the Premier League is better is people always assume that every other league out there is a 2-horse race, right? Isn't that the same in the Premier League?
So sometimes it is, and it is this season, which is unfortunate. You would expect other teams to be around.
Tell me a season that it hasn't been a 2-horse race.
There's seasons where like Chelsea burst onto the scene. Man City there, Man U used to be good. There are seasons where there's been at least 3 teams competing for the league title rather than 2. But it still is like you still have that element of there's certain teams like way above other teams in the league that are competing. But generally the Premier League isn't just a 2-horse race. But I could take the point, like if someone's arguing that it is a bit limited. It's like Spain as well. You got Real Madrid and Barcelona, and then sometimes Atletico Madrid bundling. They've taken a couple of titles. I mean, I guess like the Leicester title goes against that argument. That would have been a quite remarkable season that someone outside that core group of clubs won it. And you've historically you've had that as well in the 90s with like Blackburn, teams like that taking league titles as well. But yeah, it is in danger because of the money element becoming a bit stale. So that's why, like, although you can get clubs like Man City and Newcastle have got the money now, like, fair play, because like it's to break into that, you know, top echelons, and the clubs that are up there only get richer because of the Champions League. They're in it every year. They're making tons of money. So I'm all for clubs like Newcastle coming in and getting a ton of money and shaking things up a bit if they can.
But also this, I mean, you're right, Jay. There's a lot of time where there's only two people battling for the title. But we all thought Chelsea would have been there this season. But Chelsea just flopped by the wayside. And then you've got the battle for fourth and potentially third now in there. But usually, any team could beat any team in the Prem, right? Which is the beauty of it. And we say, and I think even when Pep came across, obviously the show's about Pep, when he came across, he said how hard he found the Premier League in his first season and how he had to adapt to life because he had played for clubs that were way richer than the rest of their friends. Barcelona and Real Madrid have different TV deals than anyone else in their league. That they don't share the prize money, they don't share the league money. Sorry, in Spain the same, or in Germany they can have their own deals, and they also unfair, right? So the Prem is
what you
from
kill.
all accounts. Yeah, exactly right. The Premier League's everyone has the same TV money, top to bottom. Where you finish in the league is obviously your bonus. How rich your owners are is very helpful, and getting in the Champions League, which soon could be up to 300 clubs in 2024, will be even more fun to win with the new changes, right? But okay, so let's say Klopp's been there 15 years at City and hasn't won a Champions League.
Klopp at Liverpool, you mean?
Not Klopp, Pep at City, right? And hasn't won, since he's been there 15 years and hasn't won a Champions League, then he's failed, okay, over that long period of time.
15 years is the marker.
I would say it's too long for him not to have gone up to the next level because they're so close now. It's not like he's come in with them having nothing. So he's now cemented his philosophy. We'll give him that. Everyone pretty much knows how they're going to play. He is getting his own players in. There's no players left from anywhere else, right? So it's now his. The Port trust him in explicitly, so they're going to buy whoever he says to buy. So over the next period of time, he's going to leave a legacy because hopefully the youths will come through. And if anything like Foden, then we're going to be very happy boys looking at the Premier League and the English team potentially as well coming through. And they will have won a Champions League. It's the cherry on the cake, right? I don't think they would rather finish second in the league and win the Champions League. I think still winning the Prem is key. But over a long period of time, the chances are you're not going to win the league every year, right? Just purely out of it's really, really hard to do and maintain it every season to get out of bed and be at that particular level, which is why he likes fresh faces. Go on, Doug.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, Tom, that's one area I would criticise Pep, would be the youth. Like he doesn't seem to be doing it enough, or compared to, we're bringing up Klopp a lot. Klopp seems to be giving youth quite a few chances in the team and they're still being successful. I mean, outside of Foden, can any of us name like 3 other Man City youth players? Well, I mean, we mentioned Delap before, but like, how many times has he been in the team? How many minutes has he had?
Is it not difficult in the sense that, okay, so the question I'll ask with Pep and the youth system, based on how the quality of players that they buy, clearly it'll be a bit more difficult for you to break into the Man City team because of the talent that's there. Foden is an exception. Foden is, you could tell that from the get-go, this guy was very high. But because of the way Man City is set up now, do you blame, you have to be really, really good to break in from the academy. So is that problem Pep's problem or the quality of players they're bringing in to the club?
They're one of the richest,
like the scouts.
They're one of the richest clubs in the world, and they invested heavily there in the academy. They've got like state-of-the-art academy. Like you would expect, you know, a certain number of players to be coming through and be given a chance. Like, again, it's in the last 3 or 4 seasons. It's Foden.
They might be giving them chances, but because we don't see them in the team doesn't mean that they were not given a chance. Then you might be given a chance.
That would be a failure as a club then, for either not recruiting good enough or not doing a good enough a job in their academy.
But the thing is that you say that, but how many clubs, even when you look at other clubs that are not in the top 6 or 7, how many clubs actually produce? So there are managers that give you, like Frank Lampard is really good at that. He's at least showing it from Derby and Chelsea and even now at Everton. He gives young players a chance. But the what I'm trying to understand here, Mourinho was always criticized with not really giving young players. I mean, he gave McTominay his spot, but that's just one in how long. But with Pep's case, and even because Pep came into a Man City team that was already rich in talent, so it's not like he came and all of a sudden started buying just talented players. So are you saying it's a failure of the club if they cannot produce youth players to break the first team, or it's just on Pep? That's what I'm just trying to
Yeah,
understand here.
if we're saying like if the argument you were making there is maybe the youth players aren't good enough, if that's the case, that's a
The
failure.
question I'm asking, I'm not
But
making an argument.
if
Question
that
I'm
is the
asking.
case, then that is a failure of the club. Like again, like the club operates, you've got the youth system. Like I said, they invested heavily in the whole state-of-the-art training facilities and youth academy. So you would expect, them to be producing some players good enough to, even just make the first team squad. Like Liverpool have done it okay. Chelsea have got a good few examples now where like Reece James and Mason Mount, etc., Chaloba. Like there's players like that get in and around the squad. Where Man City, you don't really see them in and around the squad. Maybe their squad's too big.
But you do remember that before Mason Mount broke into the first team squad, the last person to break into the first team squad was John Terry. That's how many years ago. So you can see how difficult it is sometimes for these guys to break in. So it's not at that point you would have said, "Oh, Chelsea's failing youth, failing the youth system." But breaking into that top talent is difficult. What do you think,
Do,
Neil?
I mean, Chelsea let Rice go, right? So it just shows you that sometimes you can make bad decisions with regards to youth players. It's a really harsh double-edged sword with regards to youth, because we praise the managers so much for bringing them through, but who brought them up? They're not watching the under 16s, under 14s, under 18s games very often. So you could argue that it's harder for City being up north next to United and having the same pool of recruitment. I would say United might have the better scouting pool initially because of the past success of definitely of people thinking that way. So that might be a little bit harder. Cole Palmer, I think, is the only other youngster that's in and around, and we mentioned Delap earlier that isn't about. It's not Klopp's responsibility to bring the players into the squad. It's the whole club should be bringing the players up. He should be making sure that the players are of sufficient quality to play in his team, regardless of any pre-written mandate in there. It's a sad state of affairs that they haven't had more through. But then when you see the quality of Foden, like, and how good he is, I mean, you're not going to get many Fodens anyway, right? There just isn't that many top quality players. But I would like to see a couple more, I want to say bang average Premier League players, but it would be nice to see a few of them come in and maybe not be good enough for City, but then they go and play for somebody else, right? They're not quite that, but maybe Pep doesn't like to do that. And maybe their cup runs haven't been good enough in the League Cup for us to see a better reach. That Man City team, we always say it's got depth. It's threadbare as well at the same time, if that makes sense. If I was a striker in the under 18s or under 21s and I was banging in goals, I would be really annoyed that I wasn't sitting on the bench for the top team. Is that a club problem? Is that a Pep problem? Do they not have that quality? I think Man United under 18s just won the Youth FA Cup, right? So United are still doing it at that level. How many of those will come through? It'll be interesting to see. So yeah, it's a hard one. I would never penalise him on that, but I would be upset if he wasn't signing younger players to come through and play that level rather than just pre-established. But then the money they've got and the name and reputation that Pep's got, why risk it?
But don't
like what would
don't
you
forget
do?
with these rich clubs as well, they absolutely hoover up like 15 and 16-year-olds. Like if there's any sign of like they're going to be really good, that big clubs will come in and they'll snap them up because like a million for a 15-year-old is nothing to them.
Well, we shall see, as I always say. Pep is doing a good job at City. He has, changed he brought that stability that the other managers that they brought in before him couldn't really do. So what's his name? Mark Hughes, Pellegrini, and of course, Mancini. But he has brought that philosophy has changed. But the simple question was just, has it gotten to the point that they would want more and more by being the Champions League? But I guess time will tell with Haaland signing and depending on who else they add to that squad, you never know. Maybe I might eat my words and next season they win it. I hope not, but we shall see. We shall see. On that last note, though, another question I wanted to ask. So, Neil, you mentioned that nobody remembers Di Matteo, and if Tuchel leaves Chelsea, being there, Tuchel won Champions League. Are you saying nobody remember him as well?
Yeah, I mean, they're blips in the ocean at Chelsea, right? And I mean that in the nicest possible way. They come in, they do what they're told to do, and then they go, and everyone's like, where they gone? And then they pop up somewhere else. Rafa Benitez was a manager at Chelsea for a brief period of time, as an interim at one particular point. Gus Hiddink, Ancelotti. I mean, the list is endless, which is the problem. But everyone still remembers Mourinho, because he had a lasting effect, and he had that really, really good team with Drogba in at that particular time. But even he wasn't untouchable. So they don't bring it up. And yeah, 100%. When Tuchel's gone, Tuchel's just fodder. And I think that's the problem.
I think the fact JJ mentioned it earlier about Di Matteo, like it's a good pub quiz questions. Pub quiz questions are like obscure stuff. Like you don't ask pub quiz questions if it's like an easy answer. Yeah, I agree with Neil. Yeah, just blips along the history. Like people aren't going to be, Roberto Di Matteo. They're like obviously celebrate the Champions League, remember those, but like those managers didn't have any kind of legacy. Whereas Mourinho obviously didn't win the Champions League at Chelsea, but he made a legacy there and won league titles.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a really important factor that we overlook when we think of how good managers are. The team around them is really, really important as well. Because you look at those Chelsea youngsters, and Reece James, quality player, right? Hands down, one of the best players to come through in a long time for Chelsea. But this is on the back of several different managers being at that club over a short period of time. So their youth and their policy around that seems to be paying off. They seem to be getting some decent quality players. So the board are doing that, and the club are doing that well. The problem is they don't have the same stability that the manager has, which is a bit of a shame. And maybe when you start marrying those two up with the first team and then the rest of it, and whether that's the first team gets his own people in or vice versa, and they make that work, that's something that needs to take time and work. And I think Ferguson obviously had that in abundance at United for the sheer amount of time that he was there and knew everybody, and everybody was on that same thing. And I think Klopp's definitely got that at Liverpool. I think Pep's blueprint now at City is obviously going through the rest of the teams, and I think that helps. Once everybody is on the same page, you then have that quality legacy rather than just signing world-class players every Thursday on Football Manager.
Okay. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It is, as Dunk and Neil have joined Richard in number 12 in giving their opinions. So thank you very much. If you like what you hear, what you see, please subscribe, follow us on all platforms. And of course, you can get our content from our website, grassrootchats.com. It's been a wonderful Wednesday, people. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time and see you soon. It's goodbye from Dunk.
See you later. Richard, give us a ring. We'll get you on.
Goodbye from Neil.
He's already around, mate. I'm just going to make him a bro. Take it easy, guys.
Until next time, more thanks.